Hello, this is Reverend Bill, and I am really glad to say that tonight I am going to review a movie that I really enjoyed, um, 13 Assassins. And it is available on Hulu, Prime, but if you don't spend any money, Tubi. It's also on Tubi as well, which is good. Um, I got to tell you, it makes me happy that I can actually like a film because for a while there, it's like I was just saying no, no, no. So it's good that I can actually prove to everyone that I you can make a movie that I like. Um, I actually like quite a few movies. Just recently, I'm not impressed. The thing about the this movie is number one, by the way, guys. It is a testosterone movie, no doubt. It's probably not something you want to show on date night with your significant other, but it is a great movie. The westerns always seem to appeal to the Americans. I know I love a good western. I kind of grew up with the John Wayne, Clint Eastwood movies, and it seems the Japanese equivalent is the samurai movies, and they do it quite well. And this is no exception. This is actually the second movie in a row that I'm going to uh, give out that's actually dealing loosely on an historical event. Just really quickly, the movie is about an evil lord, and I'm going to butcher these Japanese names. I know it, so I'm going to try to keep that to a bare minimum, just to save myself the embarrassment. But I'll try to say his name once. And he's a true historical figure, Lord Naretsugu, and I'm not going to attempt his last name. Um, but he was actually a historical figure. He was the son of a shogun being the ultimate warrior, that I guess the ruling class. Uh, so he was the son of a shogun and the brother or half brother of one of the most powerful men in Japan. I'm not really familiar with their titles or the power that they wield, but he was um, he was actually going to be next in line to rule. I don't think it was going to be shogun, but I think there was like a little council or a senate of something, and he was going to be uh, in line to be a part of it and maybe one of the rulers of it. But the thing was, he was an absolutely atrocious, horrible, cruel human being, and they didn't want him to take that place. He was heavily guarded, so the powers that be, on the sly, hired 13 assassins to take him out while he traveled from one area of Japan to the next area. When he went to the next area, and again, I can't pronounce the locations, the country, well, the countries I can in Japan, but the sites because it's beyond my tongue capabilities, which is, I can't pronounce my wife's middle name. She's Nigerian, so it's par with the course. But if he gets to the second site, apparently, is when he kicks in as far as his control goes. So it's imperative that they get him before he arrives at that location. Um, so anyway, the historical records show that he died at 25. I also saw some references saying it was 24, but I'm going to go with 25 just because it's the first one I saw. But they say technically that he died of an illness. I won't talk about it. So there were some rumors that maybe it wasn't an illness. And the legend is that this happened. Again, it's loosely based on what people that project what probably happened to him because he was so young, and I guess the illness was kind of hushed up. This is a remake from a movie that came out in 1963 that I have not seen. I probably will see it, but this is the 2010 movie, and again, I just find it really great. For those of you who have seen either The Seven Samurai, which is a long movie, great movie, but long movie, and that inspired The Magnificent Seven with Yul Brynner and Steve McQueen and all those guys. It was like an all-star cast. It's not terribly far from that plot. The plot in those movies were trying to save a city from warlord, or in the case of Magnificent Seven, some bandits. Uh, this is not unlike that, except instead of trying to save a city, they're trying to kill the warlord, the Lord Naritsugu. But they do take a hold up in a town, and it kind of comes down to the same thing. So yeah, I find it just as enjoyable. I love the Seven Samurai. Magnificent Seven was always one of my favorite movies. The old one, not the remake of a few years ago. That did nothing for me. But this is definitely something worth watching. It's only a 2-hour movie too, by the way, so it's not too much in lengthwise or not a lot of fillers. Like I thought that American Primeval was full of fillers. This thing, as a matter of fact, they probably could have spent more time developing the character. The movie is subtitled. For those of you who don't like it, sorry. I prefer it to having those phony voices that annoy me. They never match the bodies, and that's, I guess, annoying. I watched a movie the other day. I don't know what it was, and I had to turn off oh, you know what it was? It was a great movie too. It was Battle Royale. It was the original Korean version of Hunger Games. Hunger Games was not original. Surprise, surprise. It was based on a movie called Battle Royale, which is also subtitled and dubbed. And I just shut off the dubbing because, like I said, it annoys me that the voices don't match the bodies, and I would just soon read the movie. But that's another movie I would highly recommend. Maybe I should do a review on that. That one's probably pretty well known, though, and it was a precursor to the Hunger Games. Let's see. The problem with the guy, I guess, was that he was cruel because he was kind of born late. I think he looks around, and this movie takes place at a time where Japan was kind of getting away from the way of the samurai. That day had come and gone, and there's more of an emphasis of the well-being of the people. When I say well-being of the people now, I'm not like saying that the people were well taken care of. I'm saying that somebody somewhere probably said, "Hey, maybe these things have feelings too," which is very different than the age of the samurai. So the pendulum began to swing in the other direction. People began to realize that these people that they were abusing and killing off, they might have had feelings and maybe deserve some consideration, which was a huge change from the day of the samurai, where everything was responsibility and duty. So the Lord, I think, his issue was he didn't agree with the new ways. And I think had he been born 100 years before, he would have been happier. He probably still would have been a cruel SOB, but I think he actually said in the middle of one of the battles that they were having, he said, "Is this the way it used to be?" And he said, "I think so." And he said, "One of the first things I'm going to do when I get to the council is I'm going to bring back, the age of the samurai. We need to war more." So that kind of he resented the fact that peace was coming, and it did not make him a happy man. He was much happier fighting and killing people, which goes along with his personality. Let's see. I guess, yeah, I'll have to say something negative just because, things aren't perfect. The only thing I find out is I think it was 2 hours and 8 minutes, or 2 hours and 10 minutes, I think I wrote here, which is a good length for a movie. I actually heard a good quote that I liked, and that is, no good movie is too long and no bad movie is too short, which I like, and I think I'm going to adopt it. But anyway, so this played 2 hours and 10 minutes, and I would have complained about that with other movies. But for this one, I think my gripe was that there were 13 assassins. And like in the Magnificent Seven, you got a pretty good handle of the guys, more or less, when the fight began. So as they died, you kind of had some emotions invested in it. There are about 4 or 5 samurais that you get to know pretty well, but there's a lot of them because 13 characters to develop in a 2-hour movie that's a lot. That's an awful lot to ask. So there were some guys, almost like Red Shirt from Star Trek, thrown in there. I would have liked to know more about. So when they were, once people were dying, you're kind of like, oh, do we care about him? Who is that? Oh, yeah, I think I remember who he was. It would have been better had you had emotional ties to all the assassins, but the ones that you did know, you did care about, and that was really good because, as I've said many times, the importance of having good movies is having you care about the characters. If you don't care about the characters, the movie failed. Um, let's see. Oh, what I thought was pretty interesting was that it did come, um, it did raise a very interesting philosophical point of the samurais. And I kind of touched on this a few minutes ago, but it's worth pointing out again. Is that the philosophical difference is a samurai's responsibility to his job and to his master, or his responsibility to the people? And that's pretty much what it comes down to. There was a meeting of the heads of the assassins and the head of the security, two old time samurais, kind of like a Darth Vader versus Obi-Wan showdown where they meet in the field of battle because the Lord is, he's the Lord, but he's protected by, a Darth Vader type of a samurai. And then on the assassins, of course, there's his former best, no, I wouldn't say the best friend, but they were formidable. They went to school together. So it was a really good showdown. And the good guys saying, him getting there and becoming in charge of Japan is terrible for the people. It's terrible for the country. And the other one says, well, it's our responsibility as samurais. And it does kind of give you pause to think whether you can kind of see both points. I mean, the samurai was brought up for responsibility and to protect his lord, and that's what he was doing. But then you can also see the fact is this lord was loose cannon and need to be stopped because he was out of control. And it's a little interesting yin versus yang there that I liked. Now there is something interesting. I hesitated to bring this up, but I'm going to. And it's hard because I don't want to throw any spoilers out there. At the end of the movie, something is going to happen that'll probably make you scratch your heads. I did, and I had to do some research on it because that's just who I am. I never let anything go by without investigating it. And I did find the answer. And I don't want to give the answer because then that kind of spoils the thing. But let me just say that there were some scenes cut out of the movie that probably would have helped any culture outside of Japan. Japan has a belief system of, shall we say, mischievous demons and gods, kind of like Loki from Thor. And that kind of plays into it a little bit, I think. The writer basically wants you to kind of draw your own conclusions. And that's all I'm going to say about it. So at the end, if you find yourself puzzled, the answer lies in the fact that maybe everything you see is not what it is. And the writer just says, you figure it out. It's whatever you want it to be. But anyway, that's that. If anyone sees it and still doesn't get it, you can ask me and I'll let you know. But don't worry about it. It's so small and minute. It's probably not even worth mentioning. Let's see. It's not for children or anyone with weak stomachs. There were a couple of grotesque scenes. So yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's not a date night movie. It's certainly not something you want your children to see. The director is, and here I go again trying to pronounce this name, Takashi Miyake. Now I know him from another movie he did, which is called Audition, which I should probably do a review on that, by the way. Another great movie. Hard to categorize it. I guess most people call it a horror movie. Sure. I mean, there are certainly some horrific things in it, but it's also very suspenseful. If you're looking for some kind of a slasher movie where, people getting cut up, and that's not it. It's very cerebral. There's a lot of things that have you kind of trying to figure out what's going on. And it all comes together at the end. And it's the last few scenes are pretty intense. So when I saw that he was directing this, I had to see it because I just loved Audition so much. I'm not sure I'd want to watch it again. I think I've seen it like I think I've seen it twice, maybe three times, because I think I was dating a woman that wanted to see it. So I went through it three times, and I think three times is about as much as I'd ever want to see Audition. Um, so that's that. Let's see, but he's a good director, and I'd like to see more of his work. Let's see. But one of the things I just, just a thought. This is also about these assassins trying to cut through and find. It's a race. I mean, the Lord's trying to get through the mountain passages, and the assassins are trying to figure it out. And this is just a little note I made to myself after watching American Primeval, which was kind of the same thing. People who had no idea of the terrain trying to figure out how to negotiate or navigate through it. It just, we have GPSs, and even before GPSs, when I was younger, you had maps, or worst case scenario, gas stations. You used to always, for those of you around my age, you pull into a gas station. Hey, where's this? Where's that? But it's kind of wild seeing these people going into the mountains and the snow there, and there's a rush against time. And apart from you checking out a map before you're leaving your journey, maybe someone draws it in the dirt, and you look at it and go, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, got it. Let's go. Let's start this 300-mile trek to the mountains. It's pretty wild. But I guess a lot of it's true. That's how they did it back in those days, which added another complexity to the movie. Just that, we tend to just take that for granted, that these people actually may never have been in this trail before, and somehow they got to figure out, they got to find out food, they got to find land, they got to find water, they got to find certain terrain, and they don't have any idea. So it's kind of fascinating. I just thought I'd mention that. Now, another thing too, in the height of the fights, at the beginning of the fights, it is 200 against 13, roughly 200. Now that might sound ridiculous, and it is, but also you got to keep in mind that this is the tail end of, I guess you'd call it the feudal system. However, I don't know if Japanese people say feudal system, but it's the end of the samurai day, and these 200 people, and I think they kind of mention it a few times, that these and I'm going to call them samurai. I hate doing quote fingers, but these samurais that are protecting the Lord, they're mostly, I think, more like security guards. I mean, they got the sword, and they probably know how to use it, but they're against masters. These 13 assassins are the best of the best. So it still sounds ridiculous, 200 against 13, and I still say it is absolutely ridiculous. But you do see, like, one of the masters taking on 4 or 5 or 6 at once, and you got to understand that it's not as crazy as it seems. Again, it's kind of like a Jedi taking on stormtroopers, for lack of a better description. Always fall back on the good old Star Wars. So yeah, I mean, it would be like Obi-Wan or Darth Vader taking on stormtroopers. So it's not quite as bad as it sounds, but boy, it's bad. 200 against 13. And I do like the way that the movie does show, if you want to take kind of spiritual or philosophical look at it, it does kind of show the passing of the torch from the old ways to the new ways. And I think that's kind of what the issue was here. It was the end of an era, and it's sad, but it's also hopeful. Let's see what else. I mentioned that. Well, that's pretty much. I think I hit on all the key points. But essentially, I do like it. This guy had to go down. And generally, when you hear the name the assassins, you think of some bad people. They're actually the good people here, and they're very sympathetic, because the person they want to assassinate is he makes Darth Vader look like Mother Teresa. Now I go with the Star Wars reference again. But anyway, that said, again, I told you it was on Prime, Tubi, and Hulu, and I highly recommend it. So that's about it. Hope you guys have a great rest of the weekend. And if you like it, please like, share, and subscribe. And that's it for tonight. This is Reverend Bill signing off.